No one expected her to get up. Not after that fall. But when she did, the fear in their eyes said everything they didn't dare to speak. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. It started on a gray morning at Ridgewater Military Academy, a place where arrogance wore a uniform and silence obeyed rank. Cadet Jessica Hale stood alone on the rooftop, the cold wind tugging at her standard-issue jacket. She wasn't supposed to be there, not with them, not that morning. But she had no choice. "Come on, old lady." One of the cadets sneered, his smirk hidden under the brim of his cap. "You really think you belong here? This is for real soldiers." Jessica didn't flinch. "You think discipline comes from yelling?" she said quietly. "You'll learn the hard way." The others laughed. 5 of them, all young, proud, and reckless. They'd been mocking her since day one. The transfer instructor who didn't talk about her past, who didn't brag, who didn't seem to care about rank games. She had come to teach strategy. But to them, she was just an outsider, a woman who didn't fit the mold. The morning air thickened with tension. One cadet stepped closer, his boots echoing on the metal roof. "You're nothing," he hissed. "You think you can order us around? You're not even active duty anymore." She met his glare. "That's what you think." And then it happened. A shove, hard and fast. A scream cut through the fog. Her body fell from the rooftop, the world spinning. Concrete rushing up like a cruel wave. For a moment, there was silence. The kind that freezes the soul. Then someone whispered, trembling, "She's dead." But Jessica Hale wasn't dead. The impact had broken bones, bruised ribs, shattered trust, but it hadn't broken her. Hours later, when the sirens faded and the cadets were taken aside for questioning, she was already awake in the hospital, her mind sharp and steady. She didn't tell anyone who she really was. Not yet. Because Jessica Hale wasn't just another instructor. She was a decorated Navy SEAL combat veteran, one of the few women ever to complete the program. And she had faced worse than a fall. News spread fast through the academy. The cadets whispered. Some avoided eye contact. Others pretended nothing happened. But guilt has a way of showing up in small things. The way they turned pale when her name was mentioned. The way they jumped when a door slammed. Days later, she returned. Her arm was in a sling. Her walk was slower. But her eyes, they were calm, colder than before. The entire class went silent when she entered. Even the arrogant ones stopped breathing for a second. "Miss Hale?" One of them stammered. "You shouldn't be here." She smiled faintly. "I shouldn't be alive either. Yet here we are." From that day on, her lessons changed. She no longer spoke about maps or tactics. She spoke about honor, about the price of silence, about courage when no one's watching. Every word landed heavy. One afternoon, she called those same cadets to the training field, the same 5 who'd pushed her. "I've seen men break in ways you can't imagine," she began. "Some from fear, some from shame. But the worst break comes from cowardice." They looked away, shame creeping like a shadow. Then she tossed a training dummy on the ground. "Pick it up. Treat it as your fallen comrade. Get it to safety. Together." They hesitated, confused. But she didn't move. She just watched. It took them 3 hours, a broken rope, and several arguments before they finally carried the dummy across the obstacle course. When they finished, sweat dripping, she said quietly, "That's what teamwork feels like. Not laughter, not humiliation. This." Still, she wasn't done. The real reckoning came a week later. A surprise night exercise, simulating an ambush. Alarms blared through the camp at 2 a.m., and cadets scrambled into formation. The air smelled of metal and rain. In the chaos, a figure appeared from the shadows, face streaked with paint, movements sharp and silent. "Enemy contact." Someone shouted, but it wasn't an enemy. It was Jessica. She moved like lightning, disarming, disabling, guiding. Her commands cut through the night like steel through fog. Within minutes, she had the entire squad pinned, controlled, and breathless. When the lights came on, the cadets stood frozen, eyes wide. One of them, the one who pushed her, finally spoke, voice cracking. Who are you?" She stepped closer, face calm, expression unreadable. "Chief Petty Officer Jessica Hale," she said softly. "United States Navy SEAL. Retired." The silence was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop on the wet asphalt. From that night onward, everything changed. The 5 cadets who once mocked her became the first to arrive at training and the last to leave. They followed her orders with a quiet intensity, not out of fear, but respect. And though she never mentioned the rooftop again, the memory lived inside them like a scar. But she hadn't returned for revenge. She came back for something else to teach them what real strength looks like. Weeks passed. The day of graduation came. Blue skies, flags fluttering, the sound of proud families cheering in the stands. When her unit marched past the reviewing stand, Jessica stood among the instructors, hands behind her back. The cadet who had pushed her stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said, his voice steady now. "I don't deserve this uniform. Not after what I did." She looked at him, really looked. "You earned it," she said, "because you faced what you did and didn't run." He nodded, tears threatening to fall. "Thank you, ma'am." She smiled, faint and true. "Don't thank me. Be better. That's how you make it right." After the ceremony, when the crowd dispersed and the field fell quiet, Jessica walked alone to the rooftop where it all began. The wind was softer now. She touched the railing, cold metal against her fingertips, and exhaled slowly. She had forgiven them. Not because they deserved it, but because she did. Truth line. Because real strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how deeply you can forgive. Reflective closing line. And somewhere beneath the same gray sky, the wind carried her name, not in fear, but in respect. If you felt something from Jessica's story, tell me in the comments what you would have done in her place. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories of courage, redemption, and humanity, because sometimes the quietest battles leave the loudest echoes.